an excuse to get Gregory out of there. And Caron gave a warm smile, but he still had that angry look in his eyes again. Smiling shyly, he said to Gregory, "Look, it is almost lunchtime, and you have classes after all. Seeing as though there are no bad news, you might as well hop to it." Gregory looked at the time and he agreed with Caron, and Caron followed behind Gregory and out of the basement, and as soon as the two left, Allan continued with his flirtation. "Doctor, I have blue ball syndrome. Can you help me with that later?" "Allan, get your head out of the gutter already. It really is quite shameful," said Marina, laughing at her brother's nonsense. "You can't blame Allan," said Lotte. "The good doctor is quite an interesting specimen." "You sound just like my mother," barked Sunshine, walking out of the cave, and he stopped a moment and then he said to Allan, "Are you coming, Allan?" "Come in, sweetie pie," said Allan, laughing, and he reached with his hands to embrace Sunshine's waist. "Don't push your luck," said Sunshine, turning around to jab Allan's chest with his index finger. "I may not look like one, but I am a pure-blooded dragon." "And I am a pure-blooded elf," lied Allan. "We have so much in common. We are both purebloods." Sunshine rolled his eyes before rubbing his forehead, and he had very little patience for those that he considered utter idiots. And back upstairs, Caron and Gregory were having lunch at the bar, and after taking a few bites, Caron started crying again. And Sofina entered the bar wearing a dashing dress that featured ornamental roses, and smiling she said, "Hi everyone, it's a good day to be alive, isn't it? Gosh, what is he crying about?" And Sofina came to sit beside Caron, and she patted his back and said, "What's the matter, honey? Want some money? I heard that your mind's dried up. Work it is not so bad, is it? Here, have another bag of coins." Sofina then proceeded to hand Gregory the bag of coins, and Pierre came to see what was the matter, and frowning he said to Sofina, "I do not think money is going to solve his woes." "Nonsense! Money is the cause and the solution to all problems. Gregory, maybe you should take the day off and take Caron home and see if he calms down," suggested Sofina. "I don't want to go home," said Caron, struggling with his emotions. Caron finished his meal, and Gregory was at a loss as to what to do with his boyfriend. Gregory got up, and he saw that Caron did the same. And Gregory made his way towards the exit, and Caron followed along meekly. And Gregory sighed, and then he went to teach his classes with Caron tagging along. And Caron sat in the back with a dejected look on his face. And the lesson for that day focused on utilitarian magic. Spells to program household objects to do repetitive motions, spells to promote and alter the natural growth of plants. And at a certain point, Gregory suggested, "This next spell is one of my favorites, and you can use it to see into people's dreams. It is a bit difficult to learn, but quite rewarding." A student asked, "And what can a person learn from dreams? Does it work the same as a mind-reading enchantment?" "No, it is just good for sleeping. And let's say that you're having a bout of nightmares, and you can use this spell to share the dream of someone who is a bit more level-headed," explained Gregory. And a different student then asked, "So it steals dreams?" "No, you share a dream," said Gregory. "That's weak. Can you teach us how to give people nightmares?" asked a different student. The student's table then caught fire, and Gregory cast a localized rain spell to quench the flame, and the student trembling said, "Sorry, teacher." Gregory sighed and said, "What a bother." The pyrokinesis spells had been the handiwork of poor Caron, and he seemed completely oblivious to what he had done. And the fire spell incident had at least been useful in getting the students to respect Gregory a little, just a little. And when Gregory concluded his classes, he saw that Julian had been dropped off with him, and Miss Letty had gone into labor, so Julian was sent to be with his father. Gregory extended his hand to salute Julian, and he lifted his shawl up, and he said happily, "My heart, what a surprise to see you here today." Julian looked rather tense, and then he said flatly, "Mother's dying." And Caron started crying again, and he said apologetically, "I'm sorry, Julian, but I cannot do anything for your mother. I'm just a weak and pathetic little ogre." Both Julian and Caron started crying, both feeding into each other's despair, and Gregory carried his mouth shut in one hand, and with the other he took Caron's hand, and in this fashion Gregory made the effort to take the both home, and Pandora was passing by, while Inanis preferred the form of a cat. Pandora liked to appear like a fairy, and in her current form she was a wee little pixie with wings like metal-marked butterfly. and her dress was modeled after a primrose, and she wore a small headband around her head, and she had the form of a 12-year-old child. And aside from guarding Gregory's inheritance, Pandora had her own little private stash of items she found cute, and she was in every respect a hoarder of cute things. Pandora was thoughtful, and Gregory looked so sad and miserable with the two sobbing lunatics, and there had to be a reason, and she asked her better half what with the waterworks. And Agnes lived in Caron's house, so she was bound to know what was wrong, and Agnes exaggerated. Caron's mind ran dry, and they're going to be in the poorhouse soon, but he doesn't want to tell Gregory. They are? Asked Pandora worried, and finally she said, Citrin's soul will not know peace if her son is to face financial hardships, and I will increase his allowance forthwith. Pandora and Agnes proceeded to trail behind Gregory as he made his way home, and when he arrived, Regis helped Gregory with his son. And Lord Siegfried was walking the garden grounds with the help of Lysandra, and he was determined not to allow himself to fall into a wheelchair again. It was difficult work, but not impossible. And he smiled benevolently when he saw Caron crying. And he patted the little ogre's head, and then he asked, My son, what's the matter? Gregory's leaving me, I know it, whined Caron. If I were him, I wouldn't blame him. He has enough with one sobbing child, retorted Lysandra. Come now, Lysandra, don't bully the young master, retorted Regis. Let's get you cleaned up, my son, said Lord Siegfried, taking Caron to his room. Caron got himself cleaned up, and while in the shower he cried for a while longer, and after concluding his shower he took several breaths and he counted to 10, and this breathing exercise helped him regain control of his emotion. Caron looked at himself in the mirror and he slapped himself as well. And sighing himself, Get it together, Caron. Mr. Needy needs you to be a rock for support, not a squishy blob. Yes, there was nothing wrong with Gregory, and he said nothing because he did not want you to worry, but we built a life together, Caron grew quiet and somber, and other than their love, there was nothing holding their relationship together. No ring, no children, not even a house to their name. And Caron punched himself in the forehead, and then he said, No, stupid, the high skill. I had the one sliver of hope, and things would get better, and this was just a bad day. Control yourself, Caron. And Caron left the bathroom and he got dressed, and when he returned to the kitchen, Julian was sitting with Bron and Alyssa. And Julian was no longer crying, and Alyssa had explained to him that it was normal for mommies to cry when giving birth. And this did not inspire Julian much confidence, but at least he knew that everything was as it should be. When Julian saw Caron, he asked, And why were you crying? I was crying because I got in a fight with your father, and I yelled at him, and I became afraid that he no longer wanted to be my friend, said Caron. If yelling was enough to win a friendship, Peter would have left Mother years ago, and she has been just beastly to him as of lately. Get me this, buy me that, or you call it spaghetti. And she even throws things at him, and what a bully. With me she is all honey, but with Peter, I feel sorry for Peter. I don't know why he puts up with us, said Julian sadly. Peter isn't putting up with you, Julian, said Gregory, patting his son's head. And I read some of the letters he sends to my brother Liam, and he loves you, Julian. He really does care about you and your mother. He just isn't well at expressing his affection because he grew up in an orphanage. Caron grew up in an orphanage, said Julian, pointing to Caron, and he doesn't have a problem expressing his affection for you. I have my big brother, and I only lived in an orphanage for 2 years, said Caron. Peter had nothing and nobody, and he lived in an overcrowded orphanage for 7 years of his young life. And if he was afraid or in pain, he had nobody to rely on. He had no other choice but to harden himself to survive. I see, said Julian, smiling sadly. And now he knew the whole story, and he only knew Peter as King Leon's squire. And the squire had been forced to marry Miss Lady so that Prince Gregory could continue with his education. Changing the subject, Caron asked, And do you play with Peter? Sometimes. I used to play with him a lot more when I was smaller, but something changed, or maybe I changed, I don't know, said Julian pensively, and he had become distant when his stepfather started trying to reproduce with Miss Lady. And after being an only child for so long, he worried that Peter was going to treat better a child of his own flesh and blood, and since his silence was making his father nervous, Julian said, Peter has been teaching me how to fight with a sword and how to use the bow, like archery. I have gotten pretty good with the shooting, with the shooting. It is fun. And have you asked your father to teach you anything? Asked Lord Seafree. No, I prefer to play with my father, and I have seen some of his classes, and he's too soft. Peter at least is strict enough to criticize me when I'm not performing adequately, explained Julian. Pandora flew into the dining room, and she sat before Julian, and then she said, "Do you know why your papa is soft on his student?" "Yes, he's soft and squishy, that is why," said Julian, "just like the slugs he loves so much." "He is soft and squishy because his teachers used to bully him," explained Pandora, "and back in the tower whenever he messed up they would whip him, and instead of improving he got worse and worse till he messed up even the simplest of spells. And his teachers gave up after Gregory messed up a teleportation spell, and from then on Gregory learned magic but was not expected to use any of the spells he learned. You know, as the saying goes, those who cannot cast teach magic. It is easy to be strong when you have never suffered any true hardship." Julian grew even more somber, and Caron too seemed disheartened after hearing this story, and Gregory entered the dining room with the first plate, which was for Julian, and Gregory said stoically, "Please do not reveal my secrets without my permission, Pandora." "And what happened to those bad men, Father?" asked Julian. "A dragon came and he destroyed the tower with all the bad magic users," said Gregory, and he seemed to want to say more, but he decided to change the topic. And he said to Julian, "Your mother tells me that you're training for the summer's tourney, and you're a little young for that." "Well, I just turned 8, so why not give it a go? If anything, it will be good exercise," said Julian. "And we won't be using any real swords anyway, so what's the harm in having a little fun?" Gregory left for the kitchen to bring the rest of the meals, and Bron got up as well to assist Gregory, and then he said to Greg, "Sit down, I will handle the rest." Gregory sat before his son, and then he asked, "Fun. Hurting people is fun for you, Julian?" Julian avoided his father's gaze, and pouting, he said, "No, but playing with a sword is fun, and so is shooting the bow and the arrow." "I see," said Gregory, smiling. "It does sound fun. And I have been seeing about making the arrangements to feed you for an armor, and you prefer light or heavy armor." And during dinner, Gregory spent his time conversing with Julia, and Bron and Alyssa were chatting about the precautions to take with a new baby. And the two were not taking any chances this time, and the only person not conversing was Caron. Lord Seafree saw his son looking so taciturn. After dinner, Lord Seafree said to Caron, "I need to have a conversation with you, my son." I will leave it there. Bye-bye and God bless. I can't read anymore.